Another objection to Medjugorje is based on some of the alleged messages of Medjugorje, as though some of them might be contrary to our faith. For example, there's an early message where I think the context was a little Serbian Orthodox boy was cured, and apparently I think a Franciscan priest expressed surprise at this. Now you have to understand, in the former Yugoslavia, there are a good number of ethnicities. There are Slovenes, Croats, Serbs, Muslims who are now called Bosniaks. Okay, that was their ethnicity. Montenegrins and Macedonians, at least 6. They're all closely related to each other, and in fact, Bosniaks, Croats, and Serbs are really, really closely related to each other. The language is more or less the same, and the people have so much in common. Okay, but they do think of themselves as different. And in the former Yugoslavia, and in the countries that now exist, which represent the former Yugoslavia, so the countries of Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Serbia, etc., religion and ethnicity are always confused, okay? Because if you were a Croat, you were Catholic. So you didn't even have to say you were Catholic, you just say, I'm a Croat, meaning you're a Catholic. Or you'd say, I'm Catholic, meaning you're a Croat. They couldn't see the difference. So the same, if you're a Muslim, you're a Bosniak, and vice versa. And if you're a Serb, you're Orthodox. Okay, so they did not make the distinction between religion and race or ethnicity the way we do in other countries. It was just kind of confused and jumbled. So the alleged message is Our Lady is supposed to have said, all religions are equal before my Son. It is you on earth who create divisions. Okay? Now, when we hear a message like this, first of all, we have to understand there's that principle, the sound principle from St. Thomas Aquinas. He says, everything received is received according to the manner of the recipient. Okay? So if I explained to a crowd of people about quantum mechanics or astrophysics, they're all going to understand me according to their own language, vocabulary, and limitations, and their own experiences. And if they then were asked to repeat, what have you just learned, and repeated it, each one would repeat it in a way unique to him or her. Okay, so everything received is received according to the manner of the recipient. So if a visionary uses the word religion in Bosnia and Herzegovina, really, religion means ethnicity for them. Certainly did at that time. So when all religions are equal before my Son, we have to understand it as all ethnicities, all peoples. Because here the objection was, how come a Serb Orthodox was cured? And of course, you have to also wonder why was a Franciscan puzzled by that, because of the I suppose, bad feeling, bad blood, confusion among those people, mutual, perhaps mistrust, I don't know, at that time, and then which was made worse by the war in those countries, in Bosnia and Herzegovina and Croatia. And of course, all along, Our Lady was calling for peace between peoples. Okay, so here, this message, all religions are equal, really means all peoples are equal before my Son. And that's true. All people are called to salvation in Jesus Christ. That's what it means. Okay. There's another message, I think, that might be related to this, and I'm not even sure if this is authentic. It's usually raised by objectors to Medjugorje, and I've not been able to find the message in any body or collection of authentic messages from Medjugorje. And it's something like, God is sovereign over all religions, or God rules over all religions. A quote like this. And again, I think we have to understand this, we have to understand it in context. Yeah, God is in charge of all religions, God is in charge of all peoples. That is clear. It doesn't mean that God has willed all religions, actively willed, as though there are different ways to God. There's only one way to God. And when we look at a message like that, we have to look at the context of all the other messages. Is there even remotely a suggestion that the Catholic Church is unnecessary? Is there even remotely a suggestion in all the other messages that you could make your own way to God bypassing Christ and the Church and the sacraments? No, there is not. So it's really unfair to kind of twist one isolated thing out of context and make a mountain out of a molehill, or a mountain out of a non-existent molehill. I think that is deeply unfair, because people who do that don't realize that their ancestors would have done it to Lourdes and Fatima. Okay, let's give an example. Let's try. I hate doing this, but I need to do this to show them that they would easily, if they had been alive at that time, they would have easily done this to Lourdes and Fatima. Lourdes, Our Lady allegedly says, I am the Immaculate Conception. Now you can object, and the pastor at the time did object. How can she say she's the Immaculate Conception? That's an event, okay? Not a person. You know, what does she mean by that? That it sounds like nonsense. You could twist it like that. And actually, as I said, the pastor did object and make those objections, precisely those objections. Now, to understand it, Our Lady is saying that whatever you mean by Immaculate Conception, that's me. I'm the one who received God's grace. I'm the recipient of God's lavish grace. So that's why she actually identifies herself with an event, with the beginning of her life. Okay? I mean, it's maybe because we're so used to hearing this, we have to realize how strange it was to the people who heard it at that time. What if Our Lady had said, I am the glorious Assumption? You know, it's as strange as saying that. If Our Lady had said, I am the glorious Assumption, well, what does that mean? But you can twist anything out of context. Now, Fatima, there's more stuff you could twist. For example, in one of Our Lady's messages to Lucia, after the initial events, she said, I am holding back, or sometimes the message is given as, I alone am holding back the hand of God's wrath. Help me with your prayers and sacrifices. We have a quote from Pope Francis more recently where he said, Our Lady does not hold back the hand of God's wrath. So there you have a Pope speaking, and it contradicts an alleged message from Our Lady. What do you believe? Is Fatima fake? Now, we have to, when the Pope spoke and he said, Our Lady does not hold back the hand of God's anger, he's right. Literally, she doesn't. She does not hold back. God literally does not have anger, and neither does Our Lady literally hold back his anger. Now, metaphorically, God does have anger. God's love will manifest as justice sometimes. And that to us, with respect to us, we would call it anger, the righteous anger of God. God does punish out of love. And Our Lady holding back, or Our Lady alone holding back God's anger is an image of Our Lady interceding for us. But it's not like, you know, God, even through his love, wants to punish the world and Our Lady is trying to stop him. If Our Lady is interceding for us, she does so because God wills her to. From eternity, he has willed for her to intercede with him, to be our great auxiliatrix, our great helper. You know, she's the mediatrix of all graces. She is the one most intimately united with Christ in his redemption, and she is the great help of Christians. So you see how easy it would be to twist the words of Lourdes and Fatima against those apparitions. I mean, I think it's awful when people just take some things out of context, ignoring the rest of the body of the messages and making it into something that seemingly cannot be reconciled with the Catholic faith. I think that's dishonest, it's not fair, and it's also kind of counterproductive, because that same technique can be used against them and against every other apparition.